for having me on, guys. This is awesome. I love gear, love talking all about it. So yeah, this is going to be really fun.
A lot of this equipment we're talking about it can be used for musicians and content creators in general, if you're a YouTuber.
And I've shot probably 90% of my show on this little camera.
I love you guys. Chris, you're just amazing. Jim, so are you. You guys are the best hosts ever, I think.
Just stop, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dealcasters Live on Amazon. That's right, we're on Amazon, although we see some people that are following us and watching us on all these other tubes, and you're probably wondering why this big circle and these big arrows and stuff are on your screen. That's because the lovely people on Amazon, the car buying public, as my buddy Dan Jordan likes to call those folks on Amazon. Everyone has to unmute so they can hear the buttery smooth sound voice of Jim Fuse. And so if you are over on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook, on all of those tubes, and you're not on Amazon, we've made it easy for you to make your way here. All you got to do is go and open a browser. Most of you probably on desktop because that's kind of the way, but if you're on a mobile phone, this works as well, is just go to dealcasters.live. Dealcasters.live will send you right here where the party is at on Amazon. Speaking of party, Jim Fuse, apparently on an interview a week and a half ago, I found out you were a party guy. Like they asked you if you were a party guy and you said yes. I thought, Jim's a party guy? Welcome to the party, Jim.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I do have a history of being a party guy, as I've gotten a little older, maybe not as hard of a partier, but it's always fun to watch what people do, right, when they party. And you learn lessons, I think, as you get older and wiser, I hope.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that was a very wise
speaking of
interview. Parties, I think you did a little partying this weekend with your.
Well, my brother turned 60.
Birthday.
Yeah, my brother turned 60. We went to Northern Michigan, where the bears are out and the masks are off, and everybody is loving life and the outdoors. And we did as well. Gina Capone, thanks for joining us in the chat. Here she is rocking her Dealcasters Live shirt. We appreciate you joining. You want to stick around because our guest today is awesome. And speaking of being outdoors and being free, there's very few people on this planet that I know that are that really follow that to a T. And our guest is definitely one that does that. So, Jim, what did you do this weekend? Are you were you just hanging out? Were you going live without me? Like what
I did not go live without you.
Okay.
This was
Thank
one of
God.
those honeydew weekends, as we like to say in the business. And so lots of furniture got moved, and but everyone's happy. And 5 days, I think it is, until the final bird leaves the nest. So I know that this weekend's going to be very emotional for my wife. And so,
well, I mean,
my emotions
you're
will
on
be
Amazon.
a little different.
Yeah, you're on Amazon, so get yourself some Kleenex while you're here, and you'll be all good. What's up, Phil Hill? Knows home security, smart home tech. I always get that wrong, Phil. I apologize. I've got a lot on my mind. But Phil, thanks for joining us. Phil was a guest on our show and was awesome. Caught himself a Dealcasters live shirt as well. My man from Wisconsin, Midwest. I was there this weekend, and man, beautiful up there. And you guys remember our buddy Junaid Ahmed, Super Junaid? Well, he's rocking his Dealcasters live shirt, and so to honor Junaid,
You've got
I got myself a Super Junaid shirt. Apparently, Jim, I was the first one ever to purchase a Super Junaid.
So you should get a certificate of authenticity to go along with that.
All I need
back there with the guitars.
Yes. All I need is the friendship of Super J. That's all I need. I don't need a certificate. Yeah.
And I don't know if you heard, Chris,
would be cool.
But Gina Capone is now officially an Amazon influencer.
Congrats, Gina. That's awesome.
So,
that's awesome. Yeah. And Jim's going to tell
her.
you how to change your shop page too.
Yep. We actually talked about that. I talked with her earlier, and she's in the process now. We were able to get that all figured out. So very excited for her, and always good to see good people making that leap into the world of Amazon, which, by the way, Chris, I think in a couple weeks we'll be talking about that at Podfest Masterclass.
Well, yeah, that's right. I guess we have. I thought we were done with all our housekeeping, but yes, we are speaking at Podfest Masterclass about, well, both of us will be speaking about Amazon Live and how to continue to level up from what we've learned since we spoke at Podfest and VidFest last. But Jim, you're also speaking on Twitter and how to utilize, market, and do what you do on Twitter for your podcast as well. So that'll be awesome. And we should send out links and all of that good stuff. So we will, but I know I want to get to our guest.
Yes.
And as you guys know, our show at times is about having fun and drilling down and getting loose. And, at times it's about like, we found a bunch of deals for you. And then at times we get to have great people on our show that we hope that you not only can, learn from in terms of, life in general, but, a lot of people, Jim, that watch our show, that listen to our podcast, they're about learning new things, as an entrepreneur, trying to develop new things in their business, trying to present themselves as a brand, an authority brand in whatever space that they're in. I mean, it doesn't have to be podcasting, doesn't have to be live streaming. It could be a myriad of different things. It could be keynote speaking. It could be, a marketing agency. Well, our guest that we've got on today does all of that stuff and has done that historically for years and is known as, one of the key people in that space. So, without further ado, what I'd love to be able to do is to introduce to Dealcasters Live. Would you please welcome my friend, but also the host of the Authority Brand podcast and the author of the best-selling book, The 5 Pillars of the Freedom Lifestyle. Would you please welcome to Dealcasters Live, Mr. Curt Mercadante. Hey, what's up, sir?
Jim and Chris, great to be here. Great to be here. I know you have another show. I feel like I'm supposed to put my arms up in the air. Right? That's something different, Yeah. I have a hammock here that I'm going to test. Yeah. So.
Well done. Oh, man. Curt, I know we're going to get into your story because I think it's phenomenal. And I know you've told it a million times and you've told it in a million different ways. But I think one thing that when I heard this, I don't want to say I didn't believe it, but I was like, really? But you, Curt, you have a home sort of residence-ish, like a place where, maybe you've got some stuff, but for the most part, when the world kind of turned upside down not too long ago, a year plus ago, you and your family decided that you were going to get rid of a lot of your stuff and stuff that you felt like you didn't really even need, and said, we're going to travel the country. We're actually, instead of like cowering maybe in your home like a lot of people did, like what's happening, you guys decided to be safe, do this safely, but also just travel the country with your family. And now I think you're in Texas, right? Even though you're from South Carolina, but how did you guys decide that? How did you get to that point? And really, I'd love to know how it's been for you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on the show. Jim mentioned earlier, he had the last bird leaving the nest. And I had that today because I turned in my lease. So we're down to one car, one van. So my little baby left the nest, but there's a funny story with it. So I turned it in. Normally I turn it in and we trade in, but we've been kind of caravanning and we're like, no, we're going to go into our minivan and drive. So we thought yesterday we cleaned out the car, vacuumed it, turn it in nice and everything. And so the thing was empty as far as I knew. So I'm sitting there and the woman comes out at the mini deal and she's like, yeah, there's something still in your trunk. And I'm like, what? We cleaned it out. She goes, I said, what is it? She goes, come with me. So we go out there and she lifts up. There's like it was a Mini Cooper Countryman. He lifts it up. I'm like, oh yeah, right. Well, there was an axe, a machete, and 2 empty gun boxes. And so, she was wearing a mask, so I couldn't see her emotion, but I was like laughing, and I'm like, well, we're on the road. And it's funny because I had bought the machete and the thing. We lived in South Carolina and we were in a rural area we had in the state. And so it just, I haven't used it. I haven't had any need for it. So I put it in there. I forgot about it for 7 months. So it was a little bit, but a friend of mine said, you're in Texas. It's fine. So, yeah. I should have the axe here. I should have sold the axe and machetes. I didn't get them on Amazon, but I'm sure we could find some. Yeah, we decided last year that we wanted to actually, you said we're being safe. Everyone since this all started said, be safe. I'm like, no, man, be dangerous. And when the world kind of got weird last year, not just COVID, but the other things going on, we said, you know what? Forget it. We're going to go out and travel, because our plan was to travel different parts of the world. We've done that over the last 3 years. We weren't allowed to do that anymore. And we said, listen, we can't travel the world. America's a big place. And so we're going to travel where it's open, and we're going to flow like water to where we're most free and fulfilled. So we've been in the mountains. We've been at the beaches again. Now we're in a short stay in Austin, Texas, sampling some barbecue. We're going to go out to the desert. We're going to be out in Arizona for a bit as well. So, yeah. Am I still live? Am I still on? I got a little note that says I was disconnected.
Oh no, you're still here.
You're still good. You paused there for a second, video wise, but the audio's still screaming.
Okay,
and
cool.
Sounding great. So, yeah. So Arizona.
Okay,
is,
cool.
Is
well,
next.
I have a face made for audio anyway, so that's fine. Yeah, so we're going to Arizona for a month. We're going to be in Arizona. We're going up into the mountains. We're just traveling around. We're having a great time. We took our 4 kids on the road. We've homeschooled for 15 years. Our oldest is 15. We're having a blast. And we're getting outside. We're getting in the sunlight. We're getting vitamin D. We're doing all those things that actually keep you healthy. Exercise, vitamin D, doing those types of things. We're having great. And I'm building my business at the same time. And, I released my book 2 years ago, and it's had a renaissance during the last 6 months. Because people are discovering it, realizing that, listen, we've had really good times for about 10 years before this, right? We had the crash of 07, 08. We had unprecedented, just really good times. And there were a lot of people who weren't happy with their life, but said, I'm secure, right? I have some comfort. I'm not doing what I want to do. I'm not living the life I want to live, but I'm secure. And the last year showed them that security might have been false. Mm-hmm. And so now they're like, listen, here's what do I really want to do? And so we've had a resurgence in the book, getting a lot of calls from people who said, listen, I've been watching you for 3 years. I post on LinkedIn every day, twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. And they're like, some people are like, you know what? Because of the algorithm, you disappeared. I didn't know if you were still there. I said, I haven't missed a day. They said, well, I know that. I went back looking for you, found you, and now I had to pick up the phone and call. So sometimes when your comfort is ripped away, you start realizing, listen, I might as well enjoy life. If I'm going to go over the falls, I might as well enjoy the heck out of it. So
I love that because you're not letting something else sort of dictate, like an algorithm dictate, or your bandwidth sort of dictate what you can control. And when you realize when that what you thought was under control is taken away from you, and all you're left with is what you can control. It's like, well, what have we been focusing on? What has been distracting me from all this time? Is it the feed that's coming in? Is it all of these, the fear and all of those things that surround someone is keeping you from focusing on what you can control, which is, your loved ones around you, what you can do for a mindset. And so, I love that. And so the 5 Pillars book, is you have it discounted, as a Kindle version just for Dealcasters, which I can't believe you did that for us.
You know what? Anything for you guys. Anything for you guys. Yeah. Well, I was told you guys were buying 50,000 copies and giving them away for free, and then I get on and realize it was just bait and switch. That was the only reason I was here.
Yeah. What a deal. That's just an amazing discount for us. 50,000 and it's 99 cents. So 50. I wasn't a math major. I think
it's almost 50,000, Chris. So yeah, it's not in the budget yet, but we'll work on it.
All right.
but Curt, just that thing you just said about how people, right? It's kind of like, oh, I've got security, and now all of a sudden they don't. I mean, it definitely sounds like you went ahead and made that jump long ago and said, you know what, I'm going to live my life, and then I'll succeed the way I want to succeed. I'm not going to let people dictate to me.
Yeah. I woke up 3.5 years ago. I woke up on a Tuesday morning and shut down my 7-figure agency because I had grown to hate it, not like who I'd become, not like the husband and father I was being. And, I turned 46 this Thursday. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm having more fun than ever. And one thing I realized is that the word prosperity, a lot of people confuse it with profitability. Profitability can be part of it, but I used to make a lot more money, and yet right now I feel more profitable than I've ever been. And it's funny, we're traveling around. I'm in an Airbnb right now. I used to have my home studio and everything. And when you talk about adapting and not getting reliant on certain things, it's like, I have 8 of these shirts. This is all I wear is these shirts. And you know what? It takes away one more decision that I have to make in the day about what to put on. I just put it on and I go. It was frustrating. I did a lot of live streams, a lot of videos. And sometimes when we're in the mountains, right now, this is the best internet we've had in 7 months. And as you can see, I paused. It's still not that great. Well, you know what? I stopped doing them. And I said, I'm not going to sweat. How can I build my business without it? So in February, I launched my blog, kurtzblog.com, and I blog every day. And so I couldn't do video. So I blog every day. The key is finding out what you can do, finding out where you can reach your customers, and doing it consistently. There are some people who are horrible at video. When they make a video, no matter how hard they try, it looks like a hostage video, right? It's like, maybe you're a good writer. Just do it consistently. And I find that, my friend Randy Gage, he blogs every day, and he has for like 10 or 15 years. Victor Antonio puts up a YouTube video every day. And some people, Chris, I think you and I were talking about this. It's like some people see people doing it and it's like, well, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be Victor Antonio and as profitable as him in a week. It's like, he's been doing it for like 17 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Consistency beats intensity all the time. Chris, you're a runner, right? It's the tortoise and the hare, and it's why gyms are full January 1st and empty by the 31st, right? It's not that motivation, that willpower, that intensity. It's that consistency of process.
That's right.
Find what you're good at, be consistent at it. That's where the prosperity comes in.
And find what you love to do in the process, right? So if you're, Curt, you and I work with podcasters, right? And we're podcasters ourselves. And so everyone talks about pod fade, all right? And this applies to other things besides podcasting, but it's sort of like, okay, I need to do this in my business. And it may be podcasting, it may be live streaming, it may be blogging, it could be anything. But after 5 or 6, and they realize it's like they're waiting for that quick result of numbers or whatever they think are those, KPIs, right? Of what they think, is it downloads, is whatever, and they don't get it immediately, they quit. Yeah. They just stop. They don't, and a lot of people, and I always say this, and some people don't like it, but if you want to be successful, you got to realize you have to put in the hard work it takes to be successful. And that doesn't mean financially, to your point. Financially successful is that's amazing. That's great. But maybe that's not what you were intended to be successful for. Yeah. And so you learn what you love to do in that process, like you're doing right now. That I'm sure, like if you're doing a blog every day, chances are you love doing it.
Yeah, if it was too tough, I wouldn't do it. Sometimes I'll forget about it till late at night. and then I'll think of something. Sometimes I'll be out for a walk and I'll think of something and I comment. And usually if it takes me over 4 minutes to write, it wasn't meant to be written. For me, that's the way I write. I just let it kind of flow out of me. Podcasting is the same thing. And it was funny because, Chris, when you were on my show, the internet crapped out.
Yeah. And
you were like, here, let's use StreamYard. So I started using StreamYard, which is audio only. That's how I continued it and being consistent. Now I'm doing my first StreamYard this Friday in like 3 months because I have semi-decent, internet. And so you find what you do. You don't have to kill yourself doing it. If you find yourself killing yourself doing it, then it's probably wasn't meant to be. One thing I'd love to throw out to you, I think we're at the front end of the audio kind of revolution. And, Clubhouse, however that's going to shake out, I have no idea. LinkedIn is supposedly, and some others are coming out. I think Twitter might be with a kind of a Clubhouse, copy or whatever. But then obviously the growth in podcasting, but now there's over 1 million podcasts. And it's going to be interesting. I thought about I like doing things that have fun. And if I get bored with something, I'm like, I don't want to do it. I'm not bored with my podcast, but I've also thought of some other pieces. And I know there are some out there that are, I don't know what you call them, mini-series podcasts, but I'm almost looking forward to really the growth in those. I've thought about doing some kind of mini-series podcasts. Yeah, you put them up on the networks, right? On Apple, you put them up on Spotify and everything, but almost working really hard for a month to build a list of 1,000 people. And I'm going live with a 6-part series on creativity or something like that. What do you think of that? Because I don't know why it popped into my head about a week ago. I wonder if because there's some podcasts that just get stale after a while.
I love it. A podcast doesn't have to be an interview podcast like Joe Rogan and you're bringing people on. It doesn't have to be a solo person that talks for 30 minutes or 40 minutes. The great part about it is there are no rules. And so if you, just like when you work with people and businesses and you tell them, we have to identify who your ideal listener is, your ideal, avatar or whatever. You have to identify that person, find out their problems, and then that becomes your content. And so maybe, whoever's listening, watching, whatever, maybe they know who that person is. And that is exactly what they need. That kind of series, because you're inspired to do that for that a minute, but what happens if 2 years from now, it just becomes a pain in the butt? Nobody's going to want to hear you talk about something you're not passionate about. So when the passion hits, then hit it. And if somebody pod fades and because they're not into it, okay, then definitely stop, because we don't want you in front of the mic, bored out of your mind or stressed about it. Nobody wants to hear it. Right. So if you gotta be passionate about it. I love the idea, actually. Yeah.
They had, Serial. I've talked to some people who listen to some cool, I don't know what you call them, mini-series podcasts with that are on history, or they tell a story. And I was thinking it was a great way. You can almost do it not Netflix, but maybe Disney Plus does it. Or, hey, for the first month, you only get it if you're on my email list. And then after 30 days, I'll put it on Apple or something like that. Could be a cool way to build your list. Because I'm always looking for ways not to be a prisoner or at the whim of the platform owners.
Yeah.
And more power
speaking
to them.
of, Apple's now putting paid podcasts out there, and now
I think
Spotify's about to follow
Spotify.
suit. Yeah. So well, congratulations. If you want your content to be paid for one particular platform, you're excluding most everyone else, right? When Joe Rogan went exclusively to Spotify, he just cut his audience dramatically for whatever that paycheck is. But if you control it, Curt, if you're on your own land and you're not on Apple's land, you're not on Spotify's land, you're not on Amazon's land. Are you hearing me? You're in control of it. And it's your RSS feed. It's something that you can create your own toll booth for. And, if it's valuable content, then people will pay for it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting in that realm, especially as they get more competitive. I mean, Apple's making their changes for a reason. And Instagram, Facebook are making their changes for a reason. And now, probably because of political stuff, you have non-political people getting banned. There was just a story about people in New Zealand, like small business owners who post nothing political. Somehow a word they used was similar and now are getting kicked off. And they're like, my entire business, like I sold handbags. I don't do anything political. And they're, and so it's getting caught up by the bots. And, and so, is there evidence, or are we all just, because Chris, you're not the only one who said it, but like Rogan, is there evidence that his listenership has gone down? I mean, is that public? Can you view the stats? I mean, or is it just kind of anecdotal? We feel like he did because.
Well, that's the one thing about podcast stats is that they're mostly not public, and it's I thought the music business was wacky in terms of counting and charting and all of that stuff. This podcast statistics are, but you just can't help but think if how much YouTube content was he can't do, and Spotify is in a lot of places, and but it's also not in a lot of places that Joe Rogan used to be in, and so I just think like if you're someone like him or you're someone that has a massive audience, that's massive leverage. And so, and I think he just basically took, what was the most valuable part of what he did and chopped it. And
the video part, I mean, I've had complications sometimes getting the videos to play, and I'm not certain. I don't think you can share the videos like you do on YouTube. I think you just share a link to the whole thing, which maybe there's a point. Maybe Spotify likes that, but
Curt, I think to your point as well, though, here's one of the issues, right? You have this large audience, like say, for example, they were on YouTube or Apple, and now you're telling me if you want to keep listening to me, you've got to change your behavior and go here for me, right? It's not about your audience, it's about you. And I think that is not, people are not, it's that whole resistance to change, right? Or people like, oh, well, if he's going there, I'm going to go sign up for Spotify. There probably were some, but I bet there's a large part of like, oh, that's too bad. I guess I won't be listening to him anymore.
And I can understand it, right? It's like when Stern was getting such problems from the FCC, and he's like, I don't care. I don't care. I think, Rogan, I listen to Rogan a lot. It depends on the guest mostly, but he was frustrated with YouTube dinging him if they had a guest that they didn't like. And I think he was like, first of all, 100 million, which, is nice. Secondly, kind of like, I'm sick of being deplatformed, and, he signed the deal. I can understand that. I guess it's similar to, hey, I don't want to be in a platform. Come and sign up for me where I'm at. So I get it, sometimes being at the whim of different platforms. But I've also heard people saying, oh, this isn't going to last. This isn't going to last because they're taking off. They are censoring some of his episodes. So how long does he last?
Absolutely. Just having worked with that company, the company that I worked with was a music business, and so having worked with Spotify and knowing, things, that's just a sign of what's to come. And so I think that's when you sign exclusive deals and everybody says, oh, it's just going to be the same, and $100 million later, and a lot of lawyers we'll see what happens. So we've got a comment from Junaid Ahmed on Amazon. The amazing thing about a mini podcast series is that you're creating content that's going to live on longer than ourselves. We tend to create evergreen content. That's a great point. I think a lot of times, we're live right now, Curt, and you and I went live, so to speak, when we did your podcast, and that was a moment in time. But I think if we treat everything that we do online as something that will live forever, I think we take it a little bit more seriously. And it's okay not to take it seriously sometimes, but I think it's important to, what Junaid says is to look at things like they are going to live on forever. And it's almost like a legacy you're leaving for your family, your children, your children's children, and in the future.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. You know, and I know that was one of the it was one of the knocks, but also one of the bright sides for people about Clubhouse. You know, it's they'd say, well, they're not recording it. Well, now people are recording it. And I was talking to Randy Gage, and he's like, you know, Clubhouse. He's like, then I was told it wasn't going to be. He's like, that's why I blog. That's why I put stuff out there. I want it to last forever, so you can, you know, maybe someone searches for something and they find a blog post from 10 years ago. On the flip side, you know, I think there is a culture now, it's not, I don't know if it's a counterculture or whatever, the subculture of gotcha, where like there was a case where a reporter was hiding out and actually disguising who she was on Clubhouse to try and catch Mark Andreessen saying things so he could be canceled. And she actually got caught lying about it. So I also understand people not wanting things to be evergreen and wanting to be a little bit more, have a place. And now you're seeing a growth, for instance, in Signal and these places where like, listen, you know, the head of Signal, Moxie Marlinspike, was on Rogan, and he said, listen, all, you know, the most transformational ideas and movements in history needed a secret, safe place to have discussions about it. You know, we can look at people now that our society thinks are bad, okay? Well, think during the American Revolution, the founding fathers were criminals. They were traitors. They needed a secret space to do it. And I'm sure people wanted to cancel them. I mean, they did, right? They tried. And so that's why I favor, I'm pretty much an absolute free speech person. And I favor having social media sites be like the old phone companies, right? We're a tube, we're a pipe. You know, 20 years ago, if someone organized a rally that you didn't like and used the phone, you didn't try to cancel a town's phone, you know, phone system, shut off the phones. And so it's an interesting world we're entering in, because our society and certain parts of society can declare something good or bad. And it's almost like we're the most perfect society that ever lived. And so we're canceling people from last year. Because last year, humanity was stupid, but now we're enlightened. Well, what about next year? What about 20 years from now? You know?
Yeah. And what about the statues that have been up for 200 years? Or, you know, let's go back 10 years. And, you know, I mean, I'm most of what you're talking about. I feel the same way in terms of, you know, it is, I don't want to say scary, but it is slippery, in terms of what has become free speech and what is like, there's a lot of hesitation in terms of what could actually happen to someone or be taken incorrectly by what they say or type or tweet, or there's a lot of different ways. So, and listen, not every human's got, you know, great judgment like Jim Fuse, right, Curt? So, you know, I don't know about you, but I've said some stupid stuff over, you know, admittedly over the years. I said some stupid stuff this morning, but nothing that I would get canceled for. Just some stuff that my wife.
At least not today, but maybe next week.
Right.
And you know, the other thing though, Chris, you know, to the point here is like, you know, with these platforms, you know, Curt brought up earlier, these businesses all of a sudden basically were, you know, stripped of their business pages because it's something. My concern with some of these platforms is like there is no like true arbitration or mediation. It's kind of like you can't even get a phone number to call someone and say, hey, I've been wronged. It's like you're just going to have to keep dealing with some, you know, forum, or have to even have a friend on your behalf say, hey, why'd you take this page down? And it's a little crazy in that way, you know, because I do think we have it's that whole thing, right? Like if you didn't like Howard Stern, right? Change the station, right?
Yeah. Well, and there's the old principle of what free speech is, or dangerous speech is yelling fire in a crowded theater. Well, it seems today the definition of what is yelling fire in a crowded theater is like everything, you know, and it's like, you know, I believe in a free marketplace of ideas, and stupid ideas, there will be consequences for stupid ideas, and there will be consequences for great ideas. And now you can't have that mixing and matching, you know, and I can't remember who it was that brought up this topic of, it was someone on Rogan, of the danger that comes when you take away a group's forum, where do they go? Right. And I think it was Martin Luther King Jr., I believe, that said, the riot is the tool of the unheard. Well, the more you cause certain groups to be unheard, the more that pressure boils. And I don't care who it is, right? And it's got to pop up somewhere. And I just think I think it's dangerous, not just in the realm of what's going on over the last year, but overall. I think, especially in this country, that the beauty of this country is our differences, not from a divisive aspect, but differences of opinion, differences in culture between states, differences in worldview, and that's what's made us wonderful. And when you have that all together and you have competition for ideas, and also a true federalism where it's like, listen, I don't like what this state is doing, I'm going to live in this state, rather than I don't like what that state doing, we need to force them to do, it gets weird. But I think, as we see, people who have nothing to do with politics or vaccines or whatever get caught up in it. I'm selling handbags. This is how I make my living. And because some bot was created to ding someone who's talking about vitamin D or something, I talked about my handbag, which had the word D in the title. And so I'm banned and I lost all my income. It's weird, man. I don't get it,
Do you think some of it's maybe rooted in fear? Do you think people are fearful?
I think fear over the last year has been the number one emotion. And knowing that has given me more empathy instead of anger at why people do certain things that I may find, I won't say what those are, but you're in the middle of the woods. And I think some people think COVID falls in acid rain in the middle of the woods when you're there alone. But it's fear that causes those things. And when fear sells ads and ratings, and you realize that, then more fear sells more ads and ratings. And when you become dependent upon that fear to sell your ads and your ratings and get votes or do other things, then anything that comes out of a love, that decisions made through love are competition. They're a threat. And so, even things like based on health, Bill Maher had this thing 2 weeks ago. And listen, I disagree with a lot of what Bill Maher says, but he said, listen, we can't have a discussion about health and, for instance, obesity in this country because you're suddenly fat shaming talking about health. I lost 60 pounds over the last 5 years. I grew up a fat kid. I feel no shame of saying that. I was bullied. I got my butt kicked for being that way. You know what solved it? I got healthy, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But if 78% of the people who are being hospitalized and dying have obesity-related diseases, we can't talk about that. That contributes to fear, where people who are entirely healthy think, oh my gosh, I'm out on a mountain. There's no one within 300 yards of me. I have to put protective equipment on because the clouds are going to carry, it just creates this. And when you're dealing with emotion, no amount of facts or statistics can sway someone either way. And so it can get frustrating. Don't you see the statistics? It doesn't matter, because if you operate out of fear and protection, you're fight, flight, or freeze. You're not thinking that way. Now, it can also work the other way. When you deal out of love, right? It's like there's a 1% chance you're going to survive if you run into that fiery building to rescue your husband or wife. Okay, thanks for the statistics. I'm going in anyways. So, it can go both ways, but you realize, right, if it's like what our parents used to tell us to do, right? Take a deep breath, count to 10, have some awareness and appreciation for the situation, and then make a decision.
Right.
And I think some of even the things that are going on with censorship, I feel like sometimes maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but the platforms are like, their reactions are like, oh, wait, yeah, we shouldn't have done that. It was some lower level person who just clicked a button and it's like, whoa, wait, maybe we shouldn't have done that. I don't know. I think they're digging themselves a hole. I think you either got to allow it to be like the pipes or not do anything. But the more they're subjective in their decisions about who they deplatform, the more they're actually hurting their own cause, because people are like, wait a second, my uncle died 24 hours after he had the vaccine. Why am I deplatformed for sharing his obituary? And I'm not saying you should have a position either way on that issue. What I'm saying is, we saw every news story about every COVID death in America for the last 12 months. Now we can't talk about deaths from other things. And I think it's going to have the opposite effect of what they may intend. And it often does. I mean, Orwell wrote about this, you know, and it's, again, when you take away people's platforms, you create something even more dangerous. You know,
I think some of this, and let me know if you disagree. I think some of this has just become that quick fix kind of mentality, and us feeding these algorithms to where it's like, I think people expect to get a summary and to make a decision very quickly on everything, because we've been able to do that. We can quickly, you know, get something to eat, quickly have something delivered to us, quickly, you know, get information that we need, quickly speak into a device and have it give us information. And so when we get information and we receive it, and someone, no matter who, gives us a quick summary of how you should react to that, or what, you know, and then I think people just take it and run with it, instead of, like you're saying, let's pause for a second. Let's try to get a little bit more information before we really just, you know, do something that maybe could be potentially the wrong thing that you find out later.
Well, and it happens on both sides. I don't want people to think I'm picking on one side here. So, like, Randy Gage has a book. Oh my God, Radical Rebirth. I was going to call it The Matrix. He talks about the Matrix, and he says, when you have awareness that there is a matrix, you can watch MSNBC and realize you're getting a liberal viewpoint. You can watch Fox News, realize it's a conservative viewpoint. But you can step back overall and realize that you're being subjected, no matter right or left, to a level of, these are his words, a level of propaganda not seen since Goebbels. And it takes that awareness of stepping back. I mean, for instance, you know, I'm carnivore, Chris. We've talked about this. I'm the carnivore diet. Well, there was a thing this week about the president's plan on climate change, and someone had written a thing saying he wants to ban all red meat, and that it's going to reduce it to only 4 pounds a year per human or per American. Now, I eat 2 pounds a day, right? So my first thought, to your point, is what? And now you get into it, it's like, no, they never said that in his plan. Someone took it and distilled it and said this was it, what it would equate. So that's how you do it on the right. On the other side, I know people who were vehemently against the vaccine on November 2nd because it was the Trump vaccine. November 4th, they were strongly for it. It's like, it's the same thing. If you were for it and then against it, it's the same thing. Whatever you are, like, think for yourself, right? Do your homework, sit back, do your homework, realize the person writing a story, no matter, they're human, no matter who you are, you're going to have some sort of viewpoint. That person's going to have an editor that has some sort of viewpoint. You see something shared on Twitter, the person sharing it has some sort of viewpoint. Do your homework, step back and say, wait, I'm not going to trust anyone except for my own lying eyes. You know, I'm going to look at this stuff and do it right, left, middle, whatever it is. And I think if we had more of that, we'd be in a much better place.
Yeah, and I think it goes kind of full circle back to what we said. Like, what you're talking about is taking time and effort, and it's a little harder. And I think a lot of people aren't willing to put forth that effort and, you know, to do that. They just want, you know, like, tell me what I like. I just want to move on. Give me the summary of what I need. And it's not, you could make it easy like that, but unfortunately it's not going to be, it's pay me now, pay me later type of thing. It's gonna.
Yeah, that's what we've created. You know, I think we have there's studies that show like our attention span now is less than that of goldfish. And so it's like, but you see this too. It's like little things, like we used to have cassette tapes. Like if you wanted to listen to the last song, you either had to sit there for 5 minutes and fast forward it or listen to the whole tape. Now I find myself realizing my kids are in and they're just like, they listen to a song for 5 seconds, I'm bored. Listen to another 5 seconds for bored. So I have a rule, like, you got to listen to the whole song. You got to listen to the whole song just to kind of train, you know, your ability to sit there and be still. But I think that's what we are now, you know, and I think it's dangerous because that plays into the fear, right? You see one talking point and you're fearful and you're angry and I'm going to go destroy that person. Take a deep breath. So, and that's part of building what I call in the book a freedom lifestyle, is not being a slave to conformity or how somebody else thinks you should live your life. It's about stepping back and saying, wait, what? You know, and just that, when you start pausing 10 seconds on everything and thinking, it's like, this has been politicized, but it's like in the Matrix, taking the red pill, and you're like, wait a second, what are they? This makes no sense. No one's making any sense. You know, make your own sense. Figure it out. Be your own doctor. Be your professor of your own life. Be the doctor of who you are. Take ownership, and then you start realizing that, man, everyone's crazy. I'm gonna figure out what's the right thing to do with my value system. Then you start becoming free. And once you have awareness that other people might be on the other side of the matrix, you're like, cool, man, I have empathy for them. I know what they're going through. I'm not going to be mad at them. I'm just going to live the life that I want to live.
God, and I love the fact that it's like you said, there's not sides there. It's not right, left, red, blue, whatever. Because I think a lot of people will make decisions like, okay, I am this, I am, right, or I am left, I am conservative, I am liberal, I am, whatever, whatever you want to call it, whatever lane box you want to put in there. And then so something will come out and they'll go to their happy place of, the news or their channel or their feeds or whatever, to be told how they should feel because they've identified as this particular conservative, liberal, like whatever. And so this gives them, okay, I should be responding to this. Well, that may not be exactly the right way that you personally should be free to respond as. So I love that, that whole free thinking type of deal, because it really has no lines.
It's interesting that Mark Sisson, who's primal health and and kind of along the lines of what I've eaten and lived for the last 12 years, paleo, primal. He was on Rogan earlier this month, and they were talking about addictions, and he was talking about wearables and to track your and great, we're on Amazon, go buy some wearables, go do those things, but they had a discussion about how those can lead to some addictions, right? Like he tells a story and Mark's like, listen, I don't wear them anymore because I just want to go by feel now. I started going by numbers, and there can be some, he told the story, they was in France with some friends, they had a great dinner, and they were like, all right, let's go back and have a drink afterwards. And the guy's like, no, it was like midnight. He's like, I still got to get in 6,000 steps. And he's like, come on, man. And so they had a discussion. Rogan's like, right, but what if someone replaces a heroin addiction with like a running addiction? And Mark's like, might be good, might not be good. If you have an addiction, it might be a sign that you're missing something in your life, whatever that addiction is. And an addiction really is where it takes away other things, right?
Right.
I think that a lot of the tribalism we see follows that same line. And tribalism can lead to being in a cult. It can be grasping for certain organized religions. And if you ask why you're in it, you have no idea. It can lead to tribalism in politics. It can lead to those isms, and I am this, and I have to put a label on. So it's like the addiction. What are you missing in your life that you have to grasp that label and do whatever anyone else? It's like, how should I think on this issue? I better go ask Rachel Maddow or Sean Hannity, right? And it's like, think for yourself. What are you missing in your life that you need that? And reverse engineer that and try and backfill with some, where am I attaching my meaning? Because if your meaning is lasting, it's not going to be attached to stuff, and it's not going to be attached to an ism or a tribe. You may be close to where that tribe is, but you can also sit back and say, wait, listen, I don't agree. What are they talking? That's crazy talk. What are they talking about? It's like cold water on your face. Think for yourself, be free in your thinking.
Yeah, I know for us, especially over this last year, we have gotten so far away from like even just having the TV on, unless we're just like watching mindless series on Netflix or whatever, because to your point, right? If you just keep watching the news every day, you're just going to you start to have that fear. And it's like, when I turn the TV off, I can just relax. I can think for myself. I can go outside and, I get up the next day and the world is still fine. And so I think it's it's fascinating how, we allow these little sound bites, and even they talk about sometimes, like, when you do videos or posts, you got to catch people in the first, 5 to 10 seconds, because they don't have that attention span anymore to actually like think a little bit. I think it's really amazing what's going on.
Yeah. When that fear goes up, your cortisol goes up, right? Which leads to fight, flight, or freeze. So you're going to make dumber decisions. But it also leads to inflammation, like things in your body that aren't healthy, which I don't know what current disease is related to inflammation. I'm not sure, maybe COVID, right? And so I think a lot of the people who are getting it really bad have a lot of inflammatory problems, whether it's diet or some other things or a host of other drugs are on, et cetera. And so that stress puts you more at risk. Puts you more at risk for heart attack, puts you more at risk for getting sick on a regular. I mean, I used to be sick all the time. Since I shut down my agency, 2017, I've maybe been sick once or twice in 3.5 years. And I think one time it was like bacterial. It wasn't like a virus, it was. And so it's a health issue, that fear, and that you feel bloated. Your food isn't digested as much. You can't, you get tired more often. It real stress. If you really look into it, stress is the #1 killer along a host of diseases. Cortisol leads to, your arteries hardening. I mean, there's a whole host of things that people think stress is just mental. It is physical.
Yes. Totally connected. I totally agree. And you mentioned, you talk about the wearables. I mean, I've run a number of marathons, and part of doing that, and I know you're fit. I'm not sure if have you ever run any marathons, halves, or?
I ran a 21 miler getting ready for a marathon that was canceled because it was the DC first DC marathon. We went to war, so they canceled it because of orange red alert or something like that.
Right. So you understand, it's like when you're training for a marathon, it's not. And I had run for years, but it never a longer distance than like 7 or 8 miles. And so when you can do 7 or 8 miles, you can just doesn't matter. You can run and just go, and you'll be fine. When you do a marathon, you have to train yourself up to the point where you can run 26.1 miles. And so in order to do that, you have to monitor your heart rate. And when you monitor your heart rate to where it's in that sort of magic space to where it's burning fat for fuel, then it helps you sort of, get to that point. And so I totally nerded out, Curt, on all of that. I have my Garmin watch, and I've got the heart rate monitor, and ask Jim. I go through all the numbers and on this run, my cadence was like this, and you could do all of that stuff, and it's phenomenal. And then after I was done with the marathon, I started running a little bit, and I kept on tracking. I was finally, you know what? I'm just going to leave the watch at home. I'm going to leave the heart rate monitor at home, and it felt like I was. Like it was 3 years ago, and I was running and enjoying it more. I was doing all that, felt the great accomplishment, but I was like, put that thing down, and now I enjoy it. Now I'm not. There's not a oh God, my heart rate just went up to 145. I should slow down my cadence, and like all of that stuff, like you said, creates that stuff in your mind that works totally against you.
It's I do a lot of breathing exercises, and one of the first things they tell you is, don't count how long you're holding your breath. Because then you think about it, and then it creates, your heart rate goes up.
Yep.
And I used to measure my heart rate. I do sprints. So once or twice a week, I go on the beach or I go on the hills and I do sprints. And I'll do it for like 30 to 45 seconds, like 95%. And then I wait for my heart rate to come under 120. And so it's like you're not fully rested, but it's down, and then you go, and then you bring it down. So I used to use a heart rate. What I found was, when I actually was monitoring my heart rate, it took me like 6 minutes, because it would get to 122, and then I'd start thinking about it, and then I'd start thinking about and then it would go up to 130. Now I don't monitor it. I just go by feel, and it's like 2 minutes in between each. You think about it, and then it goes up. And it's actually the interesting thing about that to use, if you do that, you realize it doesn't take much to get your heart rate up. You can just think about something, and it goes up like 20. And that's an
it
interesting
totally plays
piece.
into sleep too, right?
Yeah.
So if you've got stress throughout the day and you're popping pills and you're drinking 16 cups of coffee, guess what? Even though you may have laid in bed for 7 hours, you start monitoring your sleep and you're like, I really only slept for like 2. And that's why you wake up the next day and you feel awful because you weren't rested properly. You have too many stressors going on.
Yeah. Sugar can do that. Even like desserts at night. Alcohol can do that at night, raise your heart rate. And then you wonder, like, why did I sleep so bad? My pillow's good. It's what you ate. And then and then you wake up in the morning inflamed and stressed, and then it just keeps repeating itself.
How did we get here, Curt?
I don't know. Every time we talk, when I was on with you and the pitch man, we went on to carnivore. He said, by the way, he's carnivore now. Because of our discussion, he's almost entirely carnivore, he said. And he said he's up at like 3:30 in the morning and feels great. Unless he's lying.
On this last show, he ate a bagel. So I don't know what, seriously.
Yeah, I don't know what carnivore he's looking at.
A lot of people think they're carnivore because they eat like McDonald's, and it's like, no. There's meat in it, but Oh man, maybe Well, he also thought he could hang a hammock on a ladder.
God, we got to play you that video. We got to play you that video.
Jeremy
for
Chase.
Sure.
They should remake like Christmas Vacation with Dan.
So I also do want to touch on this because for the car buying public that are watching here on Amazon, this is Curt's podcast. It's called The Authority Brand, available to you on Amazon for the low cost of free. So podcasts, at least now, on Amazon are free. So go to Amazon Music and follow, I should say, the Authority brand.
I never know what to say anymore. It's not subscribe. Sometimes it's subscribe. Sometimes it's follow. Sometimes it's sign up.
Right.
I'm in here somewhere. But I what I think you do a really good job of, and I don't know if you do, I don't know if this is like SEO research on your part, Curt, or what, but your titles are so great. That's like, what the heck is right with you? I like that. I'm sure you got people going, oh, does that mean it's, not left, but what you meant was correct? Or I don't know. Like, it's just really good titles. And I also love how you break it up with like the solo podcast, your thoughts, and then you're also incorporating interviews. And so you don't get the same thing every time. And I think that's really important for podcasters, not just to keep you sane when you're doing podcasting. You don't have to feel like you have to have a guest every time, or if you're nervous about just being by yourself, you can actually have a guest to kind of break things up and whatnot. But it keeps the listener, kind of keeps things mixed up, and who knows, you may mix it up with a mini series here in the not too distant future.
Yeah. I love doing solo. The way I love doing solo podcasts is I'm sitting there and I have an idea and I stand up, I put on my lav mic. Actually, I don't stand up. What I've been doing, because I'll listen to my solo and there's a little echo. So my studio, since we're on the road, is I take my MacBook, I put it on the bed. I put pillows up around it with a blanket. I put my lav mic in and I sit there and I talk. It's kind of funny. My studio is the bed and it sounds like studio quality. It's amazing.
Sure.
But I just go for it. I have a thought in my head and sometimes it's 10 minutes and I go. And I have some clients for whom I don't produce their podcast, but they do podcasts. And they're like, it took all day to plan their 8-minute solo episode. I'm like, just try having a thought and act like you're having a conversation with one person. I literally picture a person that I'm having a conversation with, and it sounds much more personal. If I screw up or get tongue-tied, I don't care. I just keep going, and I try to do that, and we mix it up, because my interview episodes are 45 minutes or an hour. And then my solo episodes, sometimes they're 5 minutes, sometimes they're 10 minutes. So you kind of mix it up. People can get small little snippets. But I don't stress too much. I'm jealous of your backgrounds. So when we get a home base, I'm going to get some sort of better thing. But now it's like, I I don't know where I'm going to be, what I'm going to be.
Yeah.
I actually have enough podcasts through June at this point. When I had decent internet, I just recorded all of them. So
yeah, I mean, your background changes every time I see you do go live, because it does change. You're bouncing all over the country. The one we did with Dan, you had I think Iron Man and Batman or something you had behind you, and so yeah, you gotta keep them guessing, Curt. Right? So that's part of the greatness. But this has been fantastic, Curt. I think a lot of people hopefully will be picking up that book, and I mean, ladies and gentlemen, on sale for the Dealcasters car buying public is Curt's book here, 5 Pillars of the Freedom Lifestyle. I absolutely, get that physical copy. It smells good when you open it up and read it, but and also the podcast as well. I would want to maybe ask you one final thing before we sign off is, the Authority brand podcast and the Authority brand sort of, idea. I think a lot of people, when they look at brand, right, they think logo, right? That you got a really awesome, almost Avengers-like logo here that's in the bottom left corner of our screen on Amazon, and you've never been told that your brand is not on point. It always is, in terms of logo and color schemes, and you had a beard logo at one time that you were using and whatnot, and it was always great. But that's not the brand you're talking about, and I think that's it. It would be good to maybe hear you kind of speak to that.
Yeah, people hear brand, they think logo, they think color scheme. Now, all those are great, but those are tools and techniques, and you've got to first know. So I talk about 4 pillars of an authority brand. The first one is attention. And we actually work on that last, but we put it first because if we didn't put it first, you think I'm crazy, right? But that's where most people start and unfortunately stop. They think eyeballs. I just need more eyeballs, and I need more eyeballs, and I need more likes and views and shares. And I know a lot of people who do that and they're still poor, right? You go to the next one, which is accuracy. You got to know your ideal client. You got to get radical about identifying your ideal client, because the riches are in the niches. Then you reverse engineer what that person wants, not what you think they need, what they actually want. You put together your impact story message that speaks consistently to what they want. And then the next one, so that's alignment. You align what you do with what your client wants. And then the 4th pillar is authenticity. And authenticity isn't me going and swearing online and just so I can say I'm keeping it real. That's not authenticity, right? Real authenticity is you show up every day, day after day, you say what you mean what you say. You're the same person offline that you are online. You build that know, like, and trust factor, which is the number one reason people are going to buy from you. And then you pair that authenticity with that attention. So you consistently communicate that impact story message shows ideal clients. That's how you build your authority brand. When you build that foundation, then you can layer on the logo and you can layer on everything else. And you can, it's like when people are getting started doing video, they may look at what you've created. I could never do that. And so they just don't make any videos. And it's like, start making the videos, get your message right. Then you can layer this on, right? And so what makes you guys awesome is you know what you're talking about. You know what you're doing, right? You have an intention with what you do. Your backgrounds are going to change. I mean, you've probably used 3 since we were sitting here, right? It's cool. But there's some people I know who have whiz-bang videos on LinkedIn, 1,000 likes in the first minute, and they don't have a business. I couldn't tell you what their brand is other than a video. Then I have a friend who gets like 5 likes, 2 comments, and just films with his phone, right? He's been doing that for 3 years. That's his brand. He has $100,000 months from just doing that. Wow. And so build that foundation, then start bringing in the tools and techniques. And that's how you build that authority brand. You're an authority. Your authority lies in your ideas for how you make a positive impact on your ideal clients. Start there and then build out.
Amazing.
That's killer. That's killer, man. That's mic drop material, Curt. That is amazing. So if we're going to tell people to go and find you, I know we've got kurtzblog.com, but I know LinkedIn is another place where you're doing a lot of stuff. Is that where people should find you? Merc Enterprises or?
Yeah, Merc.Enterprises. If you go to kurtzblog.com, it's easier to spell. Everything's there. I blog daily right now. By the way, I want to correct you. That's not Mike Trout material. That's Jose Abreu material. I'm a White Sox fan, so I got to go.
I said mic drop, like drop the mic.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you said it's Mike Trout, like MVP fan. Material. Okay,
no,
got it.
I would have said Miguel Cabrera because I'm from Detroit. So
there you go. Yeah. I thought you said Mike Trout. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. Like Mike, that's Michael Jordan material. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, that was kind of random. Why did he bring up Mike Trout on a podcast? That was kind of strange.
Maybe he's a big Angels fan. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
That's funny.
Oh man. So Curt, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you taking the time, and we'll let you get back to the family there in God knows where, Texas. Hopefully, you got the machete and all of the weapons out of the trunk, and maybe you sold them to the Walking Dead prop guy or something like that. But
I have no power tools. The reason I have those is the first hurricane we went through when we moved to Charleston, I was terrified. I had no idea what was going to happen. I went into Home Depot and I bought everything that resembled that, but it was manual power tool. I have no chainsaw. So I bought axes and machetes thinking trees are going to fall. I'm going to be out there chopping trees, and I've just kept them. I'm not like Michael. But I do want to correct one thing that you said at the very beginning. You said, I know you have a home where you keep stuff. We don't actually. We now what we own is we have literally a 5 foot by 5 foot storage facility in Charleston, and our minivan. That's it.
Wow.
And I had the mini, but that's it now. Yeah. So yeah,
that's amazing. That is absolutely, it's like that scene from Pulp Fiction where Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta are sitting across from each other in the booth. And he was like, I'm just going to sell everything and just kind of walk the earth like Kung Fu.
Right. Yes. That's my dream, actually.
Amazing. Well, everyone, thanks for sticking around with us. Curt, we appreciate it again. And to all the amazing folks on Amazon, as always, remember, don't fear the gear.